or your level of success in the health industry, getting results actually relies on your patients taking action. And I don't think that's really talked about enough in universities. Society and populations who are always looking for the quick wins rather than doing the hard stuff that'll actually pay off in the long run. That's just how. So the most important thing is.
Hey coach, Zenia Wood here, and this is the Swift Coaches Academy podcast, created for service-based business owners who are ambitious enough to break free from the forever hustle and create scalable businesses that truly make an impact while also giving us freedom. With more than a decade of experience, we're not here to waste your time on theory. Instead, just sharing what works and what doesn't to help you get clear as fuck on your next move and show you exactly how to implement the systems and strategies that you need to scale with confidence. Today, I'm super excited. We have a doctor, an osteopath, a personal trainer, sports scientist, neuroscience coach, and a past student of mine on today. So welcome, Matt. How are you?
I'm really good, Zen. I'm really good. I love that intro. I wrote that myself. I felt pretty good about it. Made me sound really good. My girlfriend told me I sounded like I was way cooler than I seem in person. So I liked it.
That's what you want. That's what you want.
Yeah.
A really
As long as I
epic
impressed
intro.
her, that's okay.
Perfect. Love that. So, the reason that I wanted to bring you on today is because not only of the incredible success that you had during I think it was like 2-ish years that we worked together, but then beyond that as well, just seeing you really continue to step up and create incredible business partnerships. You've won, awards since then. So there's been a lot of things going on for you. And you've always had this really strong passion for longevity and like long-term care and getting out of the osteopathic typical approach of the like one and done or whatnot and blending that personal training side. So can you give me a rundown on kind of like your journey from like personal trainer to osteo to now this, I guess, hybrid that you've developed?
Yes, I can. I think I was sort of thinking about this, and I think there's probably a real pivotal point in my osteopathy career, if we'll call it that, when I was working in a clinic. And it was this moment that changed. It really was pivotal, I suppose. So basically, to set the scene, I was working in a traditional osteo clinic. It was hands-on. Yes, it was the treatments. Everyone wanted that. You'd see the same people every week, every fortnight. You do the same things. Everyone's sort of happy with that. But, I just sort of felt like I was going home every night and I was just not moving the needle at all. And it was sort of really unfulfilling. So then one day I said, you know what, I'm going to do something slightly different today. And I had a woman come in and she had terrible back pain. She had sort of limped in. She was really upset, obviously fearful, all the sort of stuff that we all encounter all the time. But I said, okay, I asked her what she wanted to get out, what she couldn't do. And we went through a process of movement and exercises. And, she could barely walk when she came in. And then when she left, she was squatting and walking tall and really happy and cheerful. And she walked out and we said, oh, that was amazing. We had such a great time. But then later that day, she actually left a Google review for the clinic and complained about me because I didn't do any hands-on treatment. And this sort of led to me sitting down with my boss and we had a discussion and she basically gave me a little bit of an ultimatum, whether I wanted to work in a hands-on clinic or style of care, or if I wanted to just focus on exercise, which was sort of phrased at the time that exercise just helps, blood flow. And that's really all it did, which, look, that's a bit.
I feel like my whole profession has just been like stabbed.
Yeah, like I don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the clinic, I enjoyed the people, I don't badmouth people, but it was like, that just felt like a very reductionist choice. And I said, well, that makes it really simple for me that this isn't for me then, if they're my two options. So I was like, okay, great. I already had a PT business, so I was already a coach. And I said, I just went all in on that because I just, it really got me questioning if I can help people actually take action on things, then that's the problem that we need to solve. And it's not fun. It's not, it's not a sexy sell. It's like, it's much harder to do. But I said, look, I'd rather spend the time trying to figure that out, because then at least I'll go home every night and uh, not hate my day. So, yeah, I don't want to talk down about anything. It just wasn't for me. So that was my transition from typical clinical life into full on coaching side of things and blending a little bit of everything.
And so how now do you use the coaching stuff that you have, and then in terms of osteopathy, is it literally just the knowledge and the intellect that you have from that, or are you still using any sort of hands-on stuff at all? Like, what does it look like now to work with you?
Yeah, I probably think I do some hands-on stuff, but that is not the expectation. Like that is not the obviously, like, through working with you and through working with, like, marketing people and everything like that, like, you'll probably never see a picture of me doing hands-on treatment just because that's not the standard
Message
that I
you want
want
to
people
send
to.
out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not what I want people to see, so they're not expecting that when they come to see me. Most of the people I work with have done that for years, and they're looking for something different, which is the whole point. So I do some hands-on stuff, but because my programs are 6 and now I've just swapped it to a 12-month
Oh my gosh, how exciting.
program. Yeah, I did.
I
I
feel
that
like I remember you were doing, like, session by session when we first started, and I was like, "Matt, no, you get better
Yeah,
change with long-term commitments." I actually remember there was a video where you were like, "I just upped my prices by, like, $85 and, like,
yeah,
I don't need like, I actually feel great about it." And I was like,
yeah.
"Fuck yes."
Oh, it was so much more than $85. It was
Oh, was
like
it?
yeah, well, it was
For your
because
one-off, you gave, like, a pretty big price because it's not what you wanted to coach,
yeah,
right?
yeah, my one-off, I think, was like $300 or something, and people still paid it, it was so it was sort of like, what you talk about, right? It was sort of a win-win for me, like, what I was trying to achieve in one session was definitely worth $300. But again, like, it's not gonna get the long-term change that most people that come to me actually want anyway, so yeah. Now I actually don't do one-offs at all, it's not even an option, um,
Amazing. Oh, I
but
love that.
yeah, so, like, people that are in the program, I do occasionally do hands-on treatment, like cupping, needling, there might be just, like, some mobilization stuff, but it's not the priority. It's sort of it's a blend. I think because 'cause we're all trying to achieve the same stuff, I think my osteopathy skills just let me understand things a bit better, and I make this post all the time. I think osteopathy is just a way of thinking, it's not a
Mm.
treatment style, and, the way of thinking is just holistically and everything functions together. But I think that's what all good health professionals do. It's not an osteopathy exclusive thing. I think most people that actually get results sort of think that way
Mm.
now anyway. Um,
So considering you're, I guess, a coach clinician hybrid, and you've helped a lot of people blend or transition from one to the other to be able to support the movement and also the clinical side, I'd love to know what you think that clinicians need to learn from coaches and what you think coaches can learn from clinicians.
what do I think clinicians can learn from coaches? Um, we'll do that one first because I actually think I think that's the bigger one. Um, I think the coaching world operates in a really I think that is the fundamental that's how we should operate in the healthcare system. I'm aware there's so many different things that, logistics and all that sort of stuff that it's probably not a reality anytime soon. But I think that a coaching model would be far more effective than just going in and patching people up and just seeing them, week by week and all of that sort of style. So coaches are much more used to communicating in an effective way. They're much more used to focusing on, okay, well, here's what we need to do. And obviously you need to do it. The work needs to be done by you. Um, clinicians have not all of them. Some of the coaches are just absolute freaks of knowledge and wisdom. They just don't have that like extra piece of paper. But clinicians may typically have a deeper understanding of the body and physiology and anatomy, but that doesn't translate to taking action. And like the success or your level of success in the health industry actually relies on your patients taking action. And I don't think that's really talked about enough in universities or schools. I don't think that's really portrayed much because it's sort of you get given a lot of information at uni and then you've got all of the answers, but those answers don't really mean anything when you work in healthcare unless the patients do something about it.
Yeah.
So I think getting, upskilling in the coaching area is something that all clinicians need to do. And coaches are just naturally way better at it. They're inclined to it. And I think clinicians actually need to be better coaches, no offense to coaches, but only because of those expectations of what
Yeah.
people go to allied health professionals for something. They don't go there for coaching. If they show up to a PT, they're aware that they need to do work. And if they show up to an allied health clinic, they are not expecting that. So you got to get really good at helping people do things that they don't want to do.
And they didn't, they're like, this is not what was on the box.
Yeah. I wanted a massage and now you're asking about my sleep. Like, I
Yeah.
don't want to change who I am as a person. Well,
But I also want results, and can you create them for me?
yeah. And I don't want to come and keep seeing you every week, but I sort of do because I like getting a massage. But yeah, it's a tough conundrum. I think they go
Yeah.
really well together.
I do too. And I think that, yeah, oftentimes I find that coaches are very, very open to learning from clinicians because they're seen as the superior ones who have that shiny piece of paper and the 4+ years of university and whatnot. And so they're often trying to expand their like technical knowledge, right? However, I remember when I first walked into like a big box gym and I was the youngest and most qualified on paper at the role. And yet all these personal trainers were like crushing it with clients, getting incredible results. And I was like, what the fuck? And so I kind of looked around, and I think that's why I've always blended it from the start. And the joke is that exercise physiologists, well, I call it PTs with a degree. Because you can learn so much from a personal trainer, and obviously you have the additional qualifications and scope of practice and whatnot. And I totally agree with you that if you're going to be a clinician who does coaching, that you need to have a higher level of service and value because the expectations from the clients are higher because of that.
Hmm.
Um,
It's more of an uphill battle.
yeah. Yeah. And I think one of the best things that clinicians or allied health professionals can do at uni is go and get a job as a personal trainer. Like learn that stuff then, because I had to wait till I finished uni, and then I was trying to figure out how to get people results and also communicate with clients and also do sales. And there was just so many things that I had to learn at once that it was a lot, and it was kind of a sink or swim, and I swam. So that was great. However, I do think that it is a lot to try and do at once when you've not actually ever had like real paying clients before. So
Hmm.
something I recommend so that you get the best of both worlds.
It's just the hours, right? It's the same as anything. If you want to get really good at something, you've got to have hours of trying to get people to do stuff. And
Yeah.
you sort of pop out of uni and you don't really have that. Um, so I guess one of your options is either people go and they do, you do observations, you work in clinic, I would just as a quick sidebar, if anyone's doing any university degree, I would definitely try and get a placement that's outside of the clinic or the student clinic at the university for sure.
Oh my gosh. Totally agree.
To see what it's actually like in the real world. Because rather than sitting around just treating each other, racking up your hours, you'll actually see the people that you'll be working with, and you'll be able to see what, like practitioners, how they have to interact with people or how they do interact. And then you'll be able to see what you like and what you don't like. And it's just, I think people just pop out and they're just in shock of what it's actually like and how
I
easy it
also
is to burn out.
Yeah, I also think that usually student clinics are quite heavily subsidized for the participants. And so it's not like a real, true value of exchange because they might be paying
Yeah.
some nominal fee, but they're
Yeah.
not actually putting their full money where their mouth is. They're trying to get like a cheap service, as
Yeah.
opposed to like when you go somewhere else and they're paying like $100 plus for a session, you're like, holy fuck, like this really matters.
Mm.
And I think just the weight of that, and getting comfortable with talking about money and sales and all those things are huge skills that I find that clinics in universities are probably not going to expose you to as many of those scenarios.
Mm.
Cool.
When you pay attention. I got that from
Yes.
you. I like
Yes.
that.
I mean, I didn't start it, but I'll take
Yeah.
it.
Don't ruin it.
um,
Just claim it now.
yeah. Zenia win. 2021, maybe. um, so talk to me about how you navigate behavior change and actually getting people to take the action, because that's something that you talk about a lot, and it's something that I think coaches are really great at, and some clinicians. However, it's something that you've really rabbit holed on, in terms of like not only the doing of the 15 years you've been in the industry, but also of the research of this, which I guess kind of feels a little left field. Most people go down the technical route of like, how does this muscle do this, or how does the person get out of pain in this joint, or whatever it is. But what have you noticed, or what would you like to impart the knowledge on when it comes to behavior change for people who are maybe not getting all of their clients great results, or as great as they would like?
Yeah. I think I mentioned it before, but like getting results in this industry relies on our patients or our clients actually taking the action. So it just means that behavior change is at the heart of healthcare. And we sort of can't just sit around and pretend that we just keep giving people more information, and that because our information might be better or it might be the right information, that's actually going to work. Because for the most part, just as a slight generalization potentially, but patients probably already know that, they probably need to move a bit more. They know exercise is good for them. They know that they should eat healthier and managing stress. They already know a lot of that stuff. So it's not really, knowing isn't the problem. It's more about doing. So you can't outwork that issue by going and doing a dry needling course, or going and learning how to do cupping or exercise prescription or biomechanics. And all of those things are great. I have done all of those things. They are fascinating.
Me
They're
too.
great. But yeah, they're amazing, and I love learning about that. But the reality is that not a single one of those things was going to solve the main problem. None of those things was actually helping me make people change their lives.
Mm.
Uh, so then it was sort of just me avoiding the main issue by sort of just compelling, yeah, and I feel
Isn't that
smart. That's
yeah,
great.
isn't that like every new grad? You're like, "I need more knowledge."
Yeah, yeah, that's imposter
Ugh.
syndrome, and we just keep doing that, and you keep doing that. But then your clients are still just unmotivated, and they're fearful, and they're scared to change, and they avoid stuff and all of that. And one of the things is actually, so a universal principle. I just found it on my screen here. I know I don't want to misquote myself, so I had to print it up.
And
But
so
one of
wait, is this one of your universal, like, let's dive into what that is first.
yes, so as part of the clinician-to-coach course that I started, I won't bore you with the details, but I launched it last year, and I got 10 practitioners from all over the world to run sort of a beta test for me, because that idea was put into my head by someone else. I was part of their biomechanics, funnily enough, mentorship. So yes, I still want to do all that stuff as well. Um, but the tutorials in that mentorship just sort of ended up just being he and I. We were just talking about behavior change essentially for about 10 weeks. And it was just he and I were almost like co-running these tutorials, talking to a lot of the new grads who were doing it, because we'd both been in the industry a long time. And all of the questions ended up being about that. And he was like, look, I'm doing this one. Maybe you should just do something like that. And it excited me. So I said, you know what? Fuck it. Let's just give it a crack. And then I asked 10 people if they wanted to do it. And they did. And the feedback was good. So now I've run a real one since. But
Hey, 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 the first one's a real one. Don't downplay that.
well, yeah, that was an exploratory, that was an idea confirming process. But
Yes. You
it actually
marketed it,
was.
you sold it, and then you created it.
I did. Yeah, I did. I did. You told me how
The
to do
strategy.
it.
Yes. Amazing. I love that.
Um, so we'll be like, yes, I'll be looking at doing the third round in July, potentially. Date TBD, not quite sure.
Beautiful.
Continuing to learn what works and what doesn't work. So I'm still refining it as we go and trying to make it better and better. But as part of that, one of the modules, I think it's week 6, is actually about trying to get rid of like the shiny objects. So it's like people know that they want to do communication, and then you hear lots of things like CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, or acceptance and commitment therapy, or motivational interviewing, and all of these individual things. But to me, I that still confuses the shit out of me, because now I feel like I'm just learning a specific little cookie cutter thing. And then what you do is you start, it's the same as if you do dry needling. Now I'm viewing everyone by how they need dry needling. So now I'm viewing
Mm,
on how can I apply this acceptance and commitment therapy to someone that is not responding the way I want. So now I'm
yeah.
just viewing everyone through that lens. So
Yeah.
what I tried to do is simplify it, because that's how I learn for myself. I'm a simple guy. I'm already overcomplicate enough stuff. So then I said, okay, well, I looked at all these advanced courses that you can go and do as a practitioner. And I said, what are the first principles of all of these? Like, what is the basic premise underlying all of these different little specific modules that you can go and do? And one of them, which is actually the principle number 3, is avoidance reinforces the problem. And as I was talking about how everyone goes and does dry needling and they go and do their biomechanics, what are they actually avoiding? Well, they're avoiding figuring out how to get their patients to change. And that doesn't solve the problem at all. It just, it amuses us over here, and we feel productive, but we're not actually addressing the thing that is actually going to move the needle. So it just sort of keeps us stuck, and it strengthens the very thing that we're actually trying to escape.
Mm.
Um,
And so
yeah,
have you researched into why we do that?
I think it's an emotional comfort thing. Um, Look, we sort of get, the longer we avoid things, the less confident we feel, and then the more that we avoid things, it sort of becomes part of our identity as well. So if we took someone who, maybe let's take someone who has like back pain as an example, they're avoiding doing exercise, whether they know that that's right or wrong. It's they go through this process of they're fearful, and that's influencing their physiology, which is it can aggravate the pain. It can switch on more muscles. It can sort of overprotect you. But the fact that they're avoiding doing the exercise is actually their emotional reward now. So now they've gone back and they've successfully avoided feeling uncomfortable. So over
Mm.
time, that pattern just sort of keeps getting reinforced and reinforced. And now that becomes habit. That becomes just a heuristic that they operate by. They're going to avoid anything that makes them uncomfortable. And their brain thinks that that's a win, because we value short-term gratification over long-term, rewards. That's just how we work. We're an instant gratification society and population. So we're always looking for the quick wins rather than doing the hard stuff that'll actually pay off in the long run. That's just how we live now.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think on that too, like I've just come back from a neurolinguistic programming master practitioner course, and I guess in that lens of it said differently, realistically, what I'm hearing you're saying is that this avoidance reinforces the problem, and then they go, "Well, I'm avoiding movement because I'm fearful, because it's painful, whatever." And then the longer we allow that sort of cycle to happen, it turns into a belief, like, "I can't do this movement." Do you know what I mean? And it's like it's not even it can get to a point where it's not even negotiable with the client. It's like, "I can't deadlift." And it's like they've built up so much evidence and belief, and the actions and the behaviors have reinforced that they can't or shouldn't be doing that. And then I think that's where, sometimes it does get really stuck. And so people may want to see a clinician instead of a coach because they don't want to do squats because they've told themselves, I can't do squats. And then if you turn around and tell them that they need to, it's like maybe this block comes up because they have such a deeply rooted belief that all beliefs, I mean, all beliefs come from someone else. They don't come from us. We're not born with beliefs other
Mm.
than like little
Is it
what's the
falling?
thing? Yes. I
Yeah.
can't remember. There's like some sort of name for it and created by someone that's like the only initial fear that we have growing up is falling. Like we sort of have this shaky reaction if you drop a baby, for good
Don't drop
reason.
babies.
But yeah, it just, there's nothing else that is inherently fearful. Like kids will walk up to spiders and be curious until
Oh,
they're taught or they see that everyone else freaks out around spiders. So therefore maybe I should freak out around spiders.
yeah. You just you sponge, right? You just sponge by osmosis and you take like on board everyone around you and all that sort of stuff. And
Yeah.
then that's just the story, that's the narrative, that's how you view the world. And it's super hard to change someone's identity or their inner narrative. So
And so how do you weave this into the work that you do with clients? Do you specifically from the get-go be like, right, this is a behavior change session, or is it just something that's woven into the coaching? Like, how would you, if you were a clinician or a coach right now and you're like, I understand how fucking important this is. My clients are not doing the things that they need to do and they know they need to do them. Where do I go from here?
yeah, I mean, I don't typically word it as a behavior change because again, people don't want to do that. So you've sort of, the most important thing is meeting someone where they're at. So a lot of the time is you need to, ask a lot of questions. At the moment, I don't really know anything. They're the expert in their own lives. So my job is to extract as much information that I can about their entire life so I can help start putting this picture together. And, through those conversations, I will pick up that they are fearful of something or that
Mm.
they have X belief or the simplistic between a growth versus a fixed mindset. Do they believe that change is possible? And I think the most important thing is to not see that they're over here. So I'm going to come in over here with such a big difference. If they don't think that they can deadlift at all, I'm not going to come in and say, well, you need to deadlift because that's so far away from their current mindset that they're just going to be like, oh, this person doesn't get it. They're not for me. They probably don't understand anything about me. So
Mm.
I would come over there and I would say, okay, well, look, we don't need to deadlift right now, knowing in my mind that we're probably going to end up doing it, but that's okay. I'll wait until they're ready. Um, I think it's just about, there's three reasons that people are actually ever going to change. And one of them is to have an epiphany. And in the health industry, that typically comes by getting told you have a severe diagnosis or, it comes on too late,
Yeah.
essentially. Maybe they see a loved one go through something and they think, oh shit. Like a lot of my clients, that one of the first things they tell me is that they've just seen their parent, go downhill so fast and they don't want that to happen for them.
Yeah.
The other one is changing their environment, which again is sort of like learning by osmosis, right? Like your environment shapes the kind of person that you are. So every single person can change their environment, but they don't necessarily get to change it at the drop of a hat or when they would like to. Um, and then the third reason is just people take tiny little steps towards the thing that they want. So whenever most people are working through the lens of, well, I just need to take tiny little steps, but they get so overwhelmed with the amount that they need to do that they get exhausted by the whole thought of the whole thing. So you just really need to shrink the change, I think that is the saying. I can't remember what book that got made famous in, but just say, okay, well, we're not doing that yet, but here's the very next little thing that we're aiming at. So I'm not even talking about deadlifts. I'm not talking about behavior change. I'm talking about, as an example, someone who just signed up, we were talking about, uh, can't remember the exact number, but it was like, we were just trying to get 2,000 steps a day because the reality is we're just trying to build that habit. Habits first, consistency,
Mm.
then you can add intensity onto that. And then they start to believe more in themselves. So my job is to make them feel like they can actually accomplish X, Y, Z. Um, and, confidence demands evidence. So my job is to build evidence, make them feel like a rock star every time that they come in. But I have to pick something that I know that they'll be able to do. So I'm not going to start with stuff that they don't want to do or that they don't think that they can do. I'm not here to sort of prove people wrong every single day, as drastically as I can. we're just confidence builders because they don't have it right now, and that's our job to build that. So I kind of remember what you asked me now. I just rambled, but
No, I feel like that was great. What I can't remember that, but what I took from that was, and I'd love to like add to this, and maybe this changes your model, which is exciting. Maybe it doesn't. But the environmental change, it kind of what I'm envisaging is the pyramid of change, which I'm sure you've seen in terms of like environment is one of the easiest things that you can change in terms of like going to a different gym or trying, hanging around different friends or whatever it is who have the thing that you want or that you're striving for. And I think that can be so powerful. I remember I walked into a CrossFit gym for the first time after signing up, maybe like 2 years ago now. And I was like, okay, cool, done the class. Awesome, ready to leave. And then everyone else like walked into like the second gym section and they were doing extras. And I was like, we just did an hour workout. What the fuck are you guys doing? And it was just normal, and it was the norm to do extras. And that had never been a thing for me because I'm like, we just worked out really hard for an hour. What do you mean there's more? But yeah, but like just that shift, it just made me think, like that's the standard here. And if I want to be better, then surrounding myself in this environment is a fucking great place for me to be because it
mm,
will help me rise to the occasion because as social beings, we want to feel like we belong and, there's other things tied into that. But I think the environmental change is huge. And then we look up the pyramid, it's also like what attitudes or beliefs that you have, which you kind of mentioned in terms of this small, tiny steps, which is also going to be part of the like just the actions that you take. And then also above that, if you can change someone's identity or their purpose for something, which can kind of cascade down, right? Like if you now identify as someone who is a non-smoker, even though you smoked yesterday, then you will change your environment. You will stop smoking every day because you are identifying as someone who is not a smoker, not, oh, I'm trying to quit, right? You're like,
mm,
I don't smoke.
yeah, I am someone who's trying to quit. That's like
Yeah.
not okay.
Yeah.
So you're a
Um,
smoker.
so yeah, I think changing the identity piece or even having a purpose bigger than yourself, which is sort of like you said of the person who comes in and their parents gone down here really quickly and their purpose is to be different for their future kids or whatever it is. So I think all of the pyramid of change is definitely around this concept as well, which is great.
Yeah.
But I also love
Is that an
the
NLP special? Was that in the
no,
NLP?
no, no. I think it's well, I've probably seen it there, but like it's independent to NLP specifically. But yeah, if you just Google the pyramid of change, it'll come up and it sort of talks to some of the concepts you're already talking about, and then adds more to it, which is great.
Mm. Yeah, nice. Afternoon sorted.
The nerds that we are.
Yes.
No, I
How
love it.
cool am I?
Getting 10 hours of sleep a night and researching behavior change.
Oh yeah, I'm charged. I'm ready to
uh,
go.
So I'd love to talk a little bit into this clinician to coach program that you have because you were very, very adamant that it is not business coaching when we spoke about it. However, it is a new lens or a different model to what most clinicians and or coaches are using. And I'd love to understand a little bit more on what it is. And obviously my assumption is that there's a behavior change in that as well as a huge component. And it's about more the human and the psychology of the human. How on am I with that?
Yeah. Yeah, correct. Yeah, it's basically trying to address the problem that we spend all this time learning all of these things, all these technical skills about us, but there's not really much out there that actually teaches us a heap more about that other person and how they operate and what their skills are and their technical proficiencies or how their brain works essentially. So I wanted to create something where we can learn more about those people because then we can adjust our styles however we need. I don't want to I know that everyone that I have worked with has a unique style of communication and how they explain things and, how they interact with people. And that's probably in reality, that's probably a big reason why their clients or their patients work with that person. They like their vibe. their aura, whatever the kids say, but they like that about them. So I don't want to change that, which is why I don't, in this course, I don't really write scripts per se. I will write down a lot of things that work for me. But at that point, I say, okay, well, now you need to take that, you need to put your own little spin on it, and then figure out how to present that to your clients or your patients. And I mean, the idea is that one little tweak I'm making between the last one and the next round will be there's going to be more one-to-one time with me, because whilst I do think that it is very fascinating information, but again, it's information and then there's implementation. So everyone is going to come from a very unique point in their careers, whether they are running their own business, whether they're trying to go from a practitioner to a coach, whether they work in a clinic. Everyone has their own little unique set of problems that they're butting up against at the moment. So when we're talking about, the nuance of working with people, it's really hard to create a module system by system that talks to the complexities of humans. That's what I've learnt from trying to put this all together. But like the general premise is that I want to try and take all of the lessons that I've learned from a 15-year coaching career and combine that with what I think people need to know from neuroscience, psychology, and the behavioral change fields, and then just package that up into a system that you can learn in 90 days. That's what I'm attempting to do within this program. And so far, so good. So
Great. I love that. And I agree with you on the kind of premise of what you were saying in terms of not having scripts, but instead I would say having frameworks is what we have inside of our stuff, right? Like people are like, I want to know what word to say in the sales call when this is the objection. And you're like, bruh, be a real human with them and level with them and allow yourself to talk about that and feel confident and practice it in conversation that flows, as opposed to feeling robotic because you said the word that was next on the script, and then people
yeah,
feel that, and then that's usually gives people the instant ick.
yeah, yeah. I said that I was actually talking to someone else about that because someone was saying that you shouldn't have. They sort of went to the next level and they're like, oh, well, you shouldn't have frameworks because it feels too rigid or something. And I was sort of the mind, and I brought this up with them, that especially when you're first starting, having a framework, you need to crush a framework at first. And then once you get really good at something, you can start, running audibles, being more flexible. But I think when people get really confused and really lost, just having something that they can anchor to so they're not
Yeah.
just completely shitting the bed is I think that's pretty valuable.
And I think it allows it to be repeatable, or you're allowed to test it, right? Because if you say 50 different things to 50 different people, you have no idea what works.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're like, okay, I'm going to make sure that we talk about this concept, or, the sales framework always goes A, B, C, D, and so you can at least go, did that work? Did that not work? Versus kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping it'll stick. I think you do have to, it's like the Dunning-Kruger, you don't know anything and then you think you know everything, and then you realize even after
I
15
don't know
plus
anything.
years, yeah, exactly. We're on the other side of it. And I do think that in that middle ground, you are just modeling other people because you don't have any of your own really strong knowledge or understanding. And so you do need to leverage other people's IP in a way that's obviously not plagiarizing, but in a way that helps support your clients with things such as frameworks, which I think can be really helpful and still allows humans to human with each other.
Be a human, especially now in people can ask AI for answers to anything. So the reality is that AI is already smarter than all of us. So our strength is going to be actually being a human, because right now it can't be a human. I don't know about by the time this comes out, it'll be better at humaning than us. But for right now, I think that's a strength that we should all probably lean into, because we're not going to out knowledge it.
Yeah.
Um,
And we don't
we'll
need
we'll
more
lose that.
information. We've
Yeah,
got
we'll lose
information
that battle.
overload era.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, but
Oh,
you asked, so in terms of why this is different to business coaching specifically,
yeah.
it's that I do want to make that differentiation, because while a lot of people, when people message me and they ask me about stuff, a lot of people do ask me about business stuff, but that's not my It's not probably my passion or my forte, or like that's not where I'll point them at you. Like that's what you've done. That's what you're really good at. I would consider this more of a skills program,
Mm.
which doesn't necessarily have to be applied to creating a business or scaling a business, or you can work within a business, but you can apply it wherever you work. If you work in a gym, that's fine. If you work in a clinic, that's fine. These are just skills that you can apply in any way you want. It's not unique to business or specific to business per se.
Yeah.
But that's probably the biggest difference. It is not technically a business course. I do include some things that have worked for me purely because people ask me, and that's just a bonus at the end. But that's not the main draw card or premise.
Yeah. It sounds like this is a real deep dive into the soft skills that are lacking, or that people feel like they want to improve on in their own stuff. Because you've got the technical skills, you've got the hard skills, you understand the physiology, anatomy, biomechanics, whatever it is. And then it's like, okay, how do I get this across to the human in front of me? And someone else, I feel like outside of you, the only other person who I know that does this is, I believe it's Brett Bartholomew. Makes, does
Oh
that,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, so he talks about like the art of coaching, I believe,
Mm,
and his is all about, my understanding is like the communication with clients and how to navigate different personalities and different people, and I'm sure there's some
totally.
like motivation and stuff in there. So outside of him, you're like the only person that I know that's doing something that's actually, I guess, got some sort of framework or structure around it in terms of developing clinicians or coaches' soft skills, which I think is far more needed than two people.
Yeah, like I'm never gonna be better at dry needling or biomechanics or whatever. And then I sat back and I said, you know what I'm really good at? Coaching people. Because that's the thing that I've done for a really long time. And then I didn't even know how what I was doing was working until I actually started saying, okay, well, let's look into
Break
the
it
research
down.
behind this stuff. And then I was like, oh, that's why. Over time, I just sort of fucked it up on repeat until I got good at it. So I guess the idea is to shorten that learning curve for people so they don't have to spend 15 years doing it that way, and it can be a much quicker sort of translation. Um,
Yeah.
I love Brett's stuff though. That's
Have
his
you done
podcast,
his
I think.
course? I paid for it, and then COVID happened, and then I didn't go because COVID happened.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
No, he's good at the communication stuff. I do the thing that I probably when people talk about communication and it sort of sounds very and soft skills, like obviously again that like doesn't sound very appealing to people. Like no one wants to, whether they should or they shouldn't. I mean, most people should try and get better at that. That's part of the profession, but it doesn't sound very appealing. And I never want to come across like I'm a what what's the right word? Like I don't want it to be just like a fluffy, here's how you better communicate with people. Like I'm sort of like, you've all got your own flavor. This is like the science behind how it works. And now I need you to put your own flavor into it because yeah, I don't want everyone to sound less human by learning this real like uptight terminology when we're trying to communicate with people. Um,
I still feel like it does really fall into the soft skills in a great way, though. Like, I think I remember there was a point in my career where I was like, I need to develop my soft skills. And
hmm.
I mean, maybe that could work for you, maybe it doesn't. But
Everyone's going to hit that point because they're going to
yeah,
know everything and they're going to be like, well, why can't I get people to do stuff? And the
yeah,
reality is that's what soft skills are.
yeah, 100%.
Everyone's going to hit that point eventually. They're like, I can't know more. I know all of the answers. I literally know. I can tell. This is the point I got to. I could say within like 30 minutes, I could solve your entire life for you with the answers. But they don't do
But
it.
not with
So
the action.
yeah, it's not. So that's not a reality of how it works. But you'll
Yeah.
get to a point where you feel like that. You're like, well, here's everything you need to do. Here you go.
Yeah.
Did that.
And I would also just add on to that, that if you are continuing to go, well, I'm not there yet. So maybe, Matt's program is not for me because I still don't have all the technical skills. It's never too early to learn the soft skills. Like you see personal trainers who have, sometimes a cereal box degree, and other times they work pretty hard for it.
Cool.
I won't throw everyone under the bus with that, but it is quite easy. It can be online. It can be such a short period of time to get those qualifications, and they fucking rock with clients, and they are
Yeah.
crushing goals through the roof. And you're like, motherfucker, like that's when I think I realized I need soft skills. I'm like, motherfucker, I have like honors degree and you have more clients and money than I do. Like, what the fuck is going on? And I
Yeah.
was like, it's clearly not your technical skills.
It is clearly not. I think we probably
Mm.
just the reality is most people need some pretty basic stuff. So your ability to just get them to do the basics is probably gonna make you so much better at so many different elements of helping people be healthier. And we probably get caught up in all that extra stuff too. But then you're just trying to apply it to people rather than get them to move more, eat a little better, go to bed a
Mm.
bit earlier.
Yeah.
Like how good are you convincing people to do that? Yeah.
Yeah. It's sales.
It
Really.
is that
Selling them
it's
on
like
it.
sales and influence. What's that?
How to win friends and influence people. Is that what you're going to go with?
No, although I've read that because obviously, yeah, we're cool and that's what we do. But it was, I think it was Pinkman, or maybe I'm just thinking getting the Breaking Bad like guy. But it was like he's the book was Everybody Sells, um, and it was so true. Like he even referenced healthcare people in there because you're selling a treatment, you're selling advice, everybody sells. How do you influence people ethically? Obviously,
Yeah. And towards the goals that they want, for
yeah.
sure. Oh, well, I have loved this chat and I really appreciate your time today, Matt, because it's so great to see you sort of, every other year or so and what you're doing. And I think that you really found a niche that needs more attention. So I am grateful to be able to provide that for you. And for anyone who is thinking, fuck, this is potentially me and I could use this or benefit from this, then we will chuck a link in the show notes below to check out the program. It is still what I would consider ridiculously underpriced. So if you get in sooner rather than later, then you may still be able to get it before Matt blows up. And we do have a 10% discount code that if you just let Matt know about, Zenia 10 is the code. So just mention my name and he'll chuck a sweet 10% discount on there for you. Is there anything else that you would like people to know today before we jump off?
I think I've probably rambled enough. I think I got a couple of good points across there. I appreciate that you put your own points in there as well to sort of summarize what I was trying to say. So that's really helpful. Um, but no, yeah, look, thanks for having me on. I love that you still, despite the fact that I'm no longer in your program, you still reach out and you still touch base with me, and you like all of my shit, and that makes me feel good about myself. So,
And sometimes we
yeah,
just need a
thank
little cheerleader.
yeah. So thank you for that, and thanks for having me on as well.
My pleasure. And if people are like, I want to see if this is right for me, I want to talk to Matt, I'm assuming Instagram is the best place to find and chat to you. Could you remind us of your handle?
Just at Dr. Matt Corbin. Just message me. That's definitely the best way. I'm on Facebook. I don't use it. I know Zenia knows that because I never reply to her
We
messages.
tried. Yeah.
So Instagram is the place to be.
Amazing. Love that. Well, I will talk to you soon and have a fantastic day.
I will. You too.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, coach, before you go, the reason I do this every single week and the reason we've been able to surpass 100 episodes is because of you. So thank you. We're on a mission towards never seeing another coach leave the industry because they didn't have the skills or the confidence to scale. So if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do that before you forget. I read every single one of the comments and share as many as I can. So if you found this episode valuable, sharing it with a friend who might be able to benefit from hearing it would honestly mean so much to me. Until next time, and in whatever you do, move swiftly.